we're going to move on to the production of culture. So we've established that there's a thing called culture, that it exists, and there's a lot of different components that we can look at. Right? So sociologists don't just talk about culture. We talk about ideal culture, real culture, norms, attitudes, values, beliefs, practices, symbolic culture. We talk about language and gesture and symbol. But where the hell does this thing come from? Because if you're like me, and you were born into a culture, you're going to live in a culture, you're going to die in a culture. You're going to spend your entire lives within a thing called a culture. You may move to different cultures throughout your lifetime, but no matter where you go, you're going to land, get in an airplane, where you land, unless it's in the middle of nowhere, no society existing whatsoever. Maybe you get onto a rocket ship and go to the moon. You're not going to be landing at any airport where there's no such thing as a culture that exists. So culture exists across all societies. So how does it get there? Does it descend from God, him or herself? Does it appear out of thin air? No. It, like society, gets created by people like you and like me in a very important process. Culture is produced. It is created by people, it is sustained by people, and it changes when people change. So, it doesn't emerge out of thin air. In fact, a very famous pair of sociologists by the name of Berger and Luckman found that culture is produced in 4 different stages. The first stage of cultural production is that behaviors, attitudes, norms, beliefs, practices, what have you, whatever component that you're trying to examine, starts off as a habit by one person or a small group of people. Culture starts off as habits. This is known as the process of habituation. Culture starts with habits of individuals, habits of a small group. Now think about it. Our daily lives, we all have habits. We have certain ways of doing things. You wake up in the morning, you may brush your teeth first, you may get a shower first. And typically you do that the same thing, right? The same way. Every morning I wake up, I hop in the shower. When I hop out of the shower, that's whenever I brush my teeth. That's whenever I do a lot of the morning rituals aside from taking a shower. So I take a shower first. Some of you may wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth first. And you do it the same way every day. Right? So human behavior is one of which habits occur. We are a species that loves routine. Whether you like it or not, you love routine. You probably drive here the same way. You probably drive home the same way. In fact, when you go home or go places, you probably have a routine that you do to get ready to go home or to go different places. And when you're broken out of that habit, you're usually pretty upset. So human behavior is just kind of conducive to habits. And culture really starts off with a habit, right? Either by a person or a small group of people. And that habit next becomes institutionalized. So it becomes not only part of that person's daily life or part of the daily life of a small group of people, it starts to get picked up by more and more people, right? Until it becomes part of the way of doing things or the habit for that entire society, right? So we can take brushing your teeth. Whether you brush your teeth before you get in the shower or after you get in the shower, the vast majority of you probably brush your teeth in the morning. How many of you brush your teeth in the morning by show of hands? Right? Why is it that we brush our teeth in the mornings? Right? We all have the ability to break out of that habit. We could brush our teeth at night. We could brush our teeth at 11 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. We could come into work and brush our teeth. We could bring our toothbrush with us. You could brush your teeth right after class. Right? But the vast majority of us brush our teeth in our bathrooms first thing in the morning. right? First thing in the morning. Why is that the case? Well, it's this process of institutionalization. Habits of individuals get spread throughout the group until eventually it becomes the habits of a large group of people. And that's known as institutionalization. Afterwards, after we see people doing this thing, a system of values, attitudes, beliefs, and opinions start to solidify around this behavior. Right? It starts to solidify around this behavior or of this way of doing things. So, why is it that we brush our teeth in the morning? Why is it that we brush our teeth in the morning?
Because you have really disgusting breath in the morning.
So, we have some values around not having disgusting breath in the morning, right? So you wake up in the morning and you have bad breath. So you go and brush your teeth. We've built up values around having bad breath and not having bad breath. So, when are you allowed to have bad breath? Everybody says never, right? Are you allowed to have bad breath while you're sleeping? Right, so you can have it while you're sleeping. When else may you have it? Is it more socially acceptable to have bad breath? Maybe after you eat? Right? Eat a lot of garlic, you may have garlic breath. You can be excused for having garlic breath if you ate garlic, right? And probably at home, it's okay, right? If you're home by yourself, as long as you're not choking yourself out with your bad breath, I think it's okay, right? So, really, it's not that you should never have bad breath. You should never have bad breath around other people. So we build up values about bad breath and about when we should see people. Right? So we shouldn't have bad breath whenever we interact with other people. So a system of values, a system of attitudes, a system of beliefs are built up around these practices that become institutionalized. And this is known as the process of legitimization. So what is the best way to get rid of bad breath? Brush your teeth, but what else? Brush your teeth when? In the morning, at night, and after meals. And then finally, they get passed on across the culture and from one generation to the next. So who taught you that brushing your teeth is a good thing? Mom and Dad, right? They stood by you. Maybe some of you, they stood by you a lot. It said, make sure that you brush your teeth. I'm coming in to fill that toothbrush. I'm going to make sure it's wet. And if it's not wet, you're in trouble. And then I'm going to smell it to make sure that it smells like toothpaste because I know that you just run it underneath the faucet, right? So there's some people who parents took a long time to pass on this little practice of brushing one's teeth. For others, you might have picked it up right away. I don't think anybody's going to admit that they had a hard time brushing their teeth whenever they were a little kid. But when you're parents, you'll find out that for some of you, it's going to be really hard to pass this practice on to your kids, right? And then brushing it properly instead of just two front ones, right? So it gets passed on from generation to generation in the process of maintenance. Now, the interesting thing is, for some parts of culture, things get passed on from generation to generation, and really, why? These whole three parts at the beginning here kind of get lost. We don't even remember why we do the things that we do. We just do them because they are the way that we do things.